أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A very good afternoon to all of you, all protocol observed. This week I was attending the birthday celebration of the Emperor of Japan, and I'm very happy that he has sent a representative to our manifesto launch. Japan is very close to us because we remember how America bombed Japan just like they're bombing Gaza at the moment. So just as horrified as we are for the killing of so many of our Japanese friends and brethren, we are disgusted and horrified at America for doing what they are doing in Gaza. I smell freedom. I was a kid in District 6. Look, we've got 2 kids from Soweto who became mayors. Round of applause. Once you are a mayor, you're always a mayor, so I don't agree with the chair that there's a former mayor. Jama-ah has 2 mayors, but more about our 2 mayors later on. 2 kids from Soweto. With Christine Kunta, I published a book on 1976 Soweto. I think it was the photographer, Makubani, who captured the heroic struggle of young people. And I see a lot of young people here. You must start the struggle. Just like the kids of Soweto. So we published all the photographs, and I remember Makubani, when I met him, told us that he was stoned by these kids, and he told them, don't stone me. If there's no record of what you're doing, future generations won't know. So we applaud Peter Makubani. But I was a kid in District 6 at the age of 11. We had resistance fighters staying at my mother's safe house. Dr. Archie Mafeji, Judge Fikali Bam, Phillips Kusana, who wore a short pants and led the Langa March. We also had ANC cadres living in our safe house, and I took the mothers and sisters 4 o'clock in the morning to visit them on Robben Island. So I must have been a child soldier. I was around when the first march of the predecessors of Appala took place in our street. Why do I smell freedom? When we were fighting in the trenches, ducking bullets from different liberation and resistance movements, we talked about a patriotic front that will rule South Africa. We never had in mind the sell-out Kodesa that we had, and we wasted 30 years. Why do I say I smell freedom at this manifesto launch? I know this is a manifesto launch of Jama-ah, and my leadership are all here. They expect me only to speak about Jama-ah, but I think this is also a launch of the patriotic front that we spoke about in the trenches. Round of applause. We heard that we have the stalwarts of Robert Chubukwe in the front row of this hall. And I think the smell comes from them, the smell of freedom. There are no colored Indians in South Africa. It is only black and white. Whites must step aside until there is equality of all South Africans in the ownership of the land and the economy. Then we can all live together and prosper. Jama-ah will address the land question boldly and give young South Africans under 25 200 square meters of land so we have a beachhead, so that all South Africans who do not own a piece of land have a title deed. In Afrikaans, they say, die wat jy gekry het, moet kry. Inshallah. South Africa is ruled by the legal fraternity and not parliament, not the people, not the streets. The people are not governing. So if the legal fraternity is ruling this country, we know everyone runs to court and they tell us how to govern, how to rule, who is right and who is wrong. That's the job of the people. That's the job of the streets. That's the job of parliament. I don't know why the courts are being given this special status. There must be transformation in the legal fraternity, as it is still saturated with others other than black. I'm not saying there's no place for whites in the legal fraternity, but many of us think so. Not in South Africa that is busy with transformation. So Jama-ah will speed up the sector code for BEE for the legal fraternity. 30 years and there is no sector code to bring transformation amongst magistrates, judges, appeal court judges, and constitutional court judges. Why is there such a delay? All other sectors of our society have got a code. Nadal is in the courts to fight for this. So the matter is sub judice, so I can't talk too much about it. It cannot be that there's still no sector code after 30 years for the legal fraternity. So South Africa is still under white rule. The whites rule South Africa. Because the legal fraternity rules South Africa. Not parliament, not the people, not the streets. The Western Cape is part of South Africa. And Jama-ah will cancel the provincial constitutions of the Western Cape and KZN and not give them an opportunity to hold a referendum to secede with the help of blacks that are anti-revolutionary. The Jama-ah effect. The Jama-ah effect was coined by former Chief Justice Mugeng, an aspirant president of South Africa. This is a slogan for this manifesto, launched, and is capturing the imagination of the nation. Other members of my leadership will speak about the Jama-ah effect, which was coined by Judge Mugeng, who says this is not a coincidence. Remember what Metternich said during the French Revolution, or not him, I think he was an Austrian. He said when France sneezes, Europe catches a cold. So this Jama-ah effect is going to have the same consequences. Unemployment is public enemy number one, and the governing parties like the ANC, the DA, and the IFP, if they are unable to get work for the streets while ruling for 30 years in the provinces, municipalities and districts, then they're not fit to get your vote. They had 30 years and they failed you. Creating jobs is at the core of the manifesto of the governing party and the official opposition and most other parties. They throw around numbers of 2 million and 2.5 million. They've dumped President Mandela's vision for decent jobs. These state government and Western Cape type jobs pay starvation wages worse than the dope system we had in the Western Cape on the farms, and not enough to put one warm plate of food on the table every day. Al Jama-ah offering is different to these political parties. We can't come to you and ask for your vote and offer the same things that the DA is offering and that the ANC is offering and the IFP is offering and Mushi Maimani's party is offering. We can't do the same. Then we're wasting our time. So Al Jama-ah's offering on unemployment, on jobs, is different to these political parties. The media always asks us, the media will ask me later on now, what is different to what Al Jama-ah is offering and other parties? So let me give them the answer. Al Jama-ah has a triple whammy for jobs. Now you know what a double whammy is. A double whammy is when a boxer connects both eyes and you've got two blue eyes or black eyes. That's a double whammy. But I'm not gonna punch my way forward now. So for Al Jama-ah, there must be full social benefits like pension, medical aid, housing, children bursaries, and a transport subsidy, plus a retrenchment pay of 1 month's salary for every year's service. The second whammy is skills and training for promotional jobs that makes workers eligible for shares in a company and co-owner of the business. The third whammy is opportunities for benefication for its entrepreneurial-minded workers to go into businesses that their former employees will procure from them. Now the silver bullet. Now we have a Maulana here which we call Maulana Bullet. Can you stand up, Maulana? So the PAC cadres, that's Maulana Bullet. My researcher is an Appala commander, but her name will remain. Well, I won't introduce her. We don't introduce Appala commanders. That's a researcher for Al Jama-ah. She's an Appala commander. I asked her now, did they salute you? She said, no, I keep quiet. So the silver bullet that will make Al Jama-ah different, and Maulana, with all due respect, your silver bullet is your dua. And your dua is that Al Jama-ah will do well in the elections, inshallah. So the silver bullet. The silver bullet that will make Al Jama-ah different to all other political parties is a fiscal policy that will ensure full employment in South Africa by 2030. What will get you to vote for Al Jama-ah is that its leadership has a track record of creating next generation jobs and new revenue streams. I got an award as a pioneer of the internet in 2002. So now you have Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Internet of Things. Just imagine your life without that. So please say thank you very much, Al Jama-ah. Life would have been boring without WhatsApp and Facebook and the internet. So if I didn't introduce the internet in 2002, your life would be boring. So I helped introduce online shopping, internet banking, online media, and a dozen more revenue streams that has already accounted for millions of jobs. So now the ANC and the DA is talking about Stone Age jobs, jobs that belong to the past. We need jobs that belong to the future. So Jama-ah is savvy enough to create more and more jobs with its triple whammy, silver bullet, and fiscal policy. Jama-ah is the only political party who fights against illicit financial flows and has made contributions to the tax justice movement. This will strengthen the backbone of our economy. Jama-ah's manifesto promises to stop the bleeding and ensure South Africa's wealth remains within its borders for the prosperity of all its people. It cannot be that 50% of our GDP is not taxed. Robbing the poor to get the rights, I will speak about later. Later I will speak about the Rights Charter. The Constitution talks about access to water, and then you must walk 5 kilometers to water, and when you get to the raging river, you got to throw stones at the dog to put your bucket and scoop up your water. We don't want access to water. We want a right to water. When Imam Ahmad Qasim put that in our recommendations to the Constitutional Assembly, the whites objected. We can't give blacks and everyone the right to water, then we are stuck. The same thing with the other rights, which I will talk about later on. So CODESA was all about access and not rights. The Constitution has been changed 18 times. Jama-ah will change it again. I know President Zuma wants to do the same, but he heard that from me. By the way, you know, I called for his pardon. You can't jail an 82-year-old man. You need to give him African justice and not European and white justice. You need to get his peer groups to sanction him. But that's another story. So, on the land issue, which we must now be prepared to die for or rot in jail, Jama-ah will try and rope in the stalwarts of Robert Sobukwe, and they are here. Round of applause to them. They are not only here to enjoy a warm plate of food, they are on our party list. Watch out for Limpopo and Eastern Cape. Every member on our party list for the Eastern Cape are the stalwarts of Robert Sobukwe. So the Western Cape wants to become the 55th country of Africa, a Zionist police state. Just watch out what those stalwarts will do to the Eastern Cape. It will be the first liberated province in South Africa. The right voices will now be heard in Parliament to take the land issue forward. The EFF and this party and that party talks about the land issue. The ANC asked me to assist them in preparing the amendments to the Constitution with regard to the land issue. They don't know what they're talking about. The only people that can talk about the land issue are the stalwarts of Robert Sobukwe, and they're sitting here. They should not be sitting here. They should be sitting in Parliament. They must make up for the 30 lost years. And Jama-ah is the platform for a patriotic front where we will all work together and take the country forward. I spoke earlier about the Jama-ah effect, which was noticed by former Chief Justice and presidential hopeful. He commented that this wave of stability and good governance and trust is a phenomenon par excellence and not a coincidence. We remember that Dr. Palazzi, a 2-month or 3-month mayor in Joburg, stated, "She stands with Israel." Al-Jama-ah took the lead to give international Zionism its first defeat this decade by removing her. To turn around a business, I normally used to teach companies when I worked in the corporate world to bring in a bull to bring out a dramatic change and replace the bull after a month or two because he's caused havoc. That's how business works. So Councillor Tapala Abubakar Ahmed, he was the bull. He did that. And after a month or two, we agreed he resigns. Because now, after he created stability, we now needed a first-class mayor, and his first mandate was to get a first-class audit and turn the city of Johannesburg into a first-class city. After 1 year, Councillor Kabelo Kwamanda got an unqualified audit, clean audit, no findings in many of his entities. And the previous 5 years, the ANC and the DA messed up the city of Joburg, and it will take us 100 years to fix it. But he has already implemented 20 accelerated programs in terms of the IDP, so he has shown that a first-class mayor not only gets a first-class audit better than the city of Cape Town, but as long as he can stay there, he will bring about another 1,000 accelerated programs which the city of Joburg needs. It shows you how much the DA and the ANC messed up. The Al-Jama-ah effect, where a political party on a Muslim ticket, but a party for all communities, which they call a small party. We're not a small party. Yesterday, I submitted 428 names for 13 party lists. We didn't have the resources and the manpower to do Free State, Northern Cape, and Mpumalanga, but we put them on the national list. So there were 13 lists, and we had 428 candidates. And just like Imran Musa, he's a beloved councillor and the best councillor when it comes to service delivery in all of South Africa. He is a revolutionary cadre. He put together this event, and I'm taking him with me to Parliament. I can't do all the work. And then afterwards, Mayor Kwamanda can join us. Because the ANC wants his post. And they're going to collapse the city of Joburg to get it. But he will fight them in Parliament. I want to talk about the Rights Charter very quickly. And I can speak on every right for an hour. So we feel that besides jobs, there must be a rights charter. And if people don't get these rights, then government and the executive is acting unconstitutionally. So I already spoke about full employment and decent jobs, but recognizing every right for every child, that is the slogan of the United Nations Convention on Children's Rights. And the slogan is every right for every child. The children of Gaza don't have these rights. They are blown to pieces and they look like a kilo of mince when you put their remains together. So children all over the world, every right for every child, but we have to start with South Africa. The children of South Africa needs to get every right that they are entitled to, and they are not. We know what happened in Saldanha with that little 6-year-old girl. The Mufti of Bosnia, before their genocide, I had a meeting with him in the bedroom of Sheikh Najjar. And he told me, you are an aspirant politician. And he told me, tell the children and the women, after my experience in Bosnia, don't depend on the men. Prepare yourself to defend yourself. Men will not protect children. Men will not protect women. And we see that in Gaza. They are all on their own. Al-Jama-ah wants to change that narrative around. We want to introduce the philosophy of Chief Albert Luthuli, who won the first Nobel Peace Prize. And by the way, his daughter-in-law is the head of our Women's League. And he proposed, he spoke about the importance of fatherhood. Fatherhood is at the core of Al-Jama-ah's manifesto as well. I know about gender rights and the alphabet people. They are human beings, they've got human rights, we don't have a quarrel with them. But Al-Jama-ah wants to push fatherhood. Women mustn't work. They must chill out and relax at home. The men must work for them. If they work and make a lot of money, that's fine. They can become queens. We've got a queen here, but she's not so rich. I hope that you will start bringing goats and sheep to the queen, to honor the queen, so they can build up a big crowd. So, the children in South Africa don't have any rights, in spite of 30 years of democracy. Just look around you, they don't have any rights. So Al-Jama-ah wants every right for every child. We want to ensure everyone's personal safety as a right. And then I spoke about the right to clean drinkable water, the right to universal health care. Now, it's easy for me to say universal health care because it's the flavor of the day. Al-Jama-ah has been working hard to implement the NHI. I forced my son to do his PhD in NHI so I can learn from him. And we've established 10 clinics in terms of the NHI primary health clinics operating in Gugulethu, in Kailitsa, in Strand, where Mona Khalil is from, in Mitchell's Plain, and also in Botasig, a white area, because there are poor whites there. We look after everyone. But more about that if I have time. Then Al-Jama-ah wants to protect you from mass surveillance. Yesterday I was fighting with the super spooks because I serve on the ad hoc committee for intelligence to draw up new legislation. They want mass surveillance because America has asked them. And the DA supports it because they say we're going to be in power in next year and we want that powers. When I read the amendments to GILAP, there is no protection for torture. the super spooks the legislation is drafted in that they can still torture. And Mr. Maki, the chairman, says, but there's no torture word in the amendments. I said, you can't read between the lines. I can read between the lines. So Jama-ah is very sensitive about torture because one of our leaders, Imam Ahmad Qasim, gave us classes on torture. Our own CEO, Professor Muhammad Harun, his father, Imam Abdullah Harun, who was killed in detention, was tortured with a 10-pound hammer and hit on his ribs every day for 100 days. We don't want that in South Africa. So, while Codesa negotiations took place, and we know what happened when we read the TRC report, the activists didn't want an intelligence service in South Africa because the way the intelligence services tortured and hanged and murdered. And you know, the first people that were hanged were Aplakaides. So no one wanted a civilian service, but the agreement was that everyone that was employed by the state keeps their jobs. So today, half of those apartheid torturers are still in the intelligence services. They're old, they're getting old, they're dying off, but they take so long to die. Maulana, can't you make a dua that they die? We don't need the apartheid torturers in the public service. Maybe that is to ask our draw, Honorable Speaker. So what was the compromise? The compromise was civilian oversight. So what does the super spy do, the Minister of Intelligence? By the way, I addressed President Ramaphosa and I asked him to redeploy the former Minister of Intelligence, and he did so. But now the Minister of Intelligence, they want to make the Inspector General of Intelligence a lame duck. No budget. He can't employ his own staff. He must submit findings, and it's up to her to decide which of the findings of atrocities they will look to. I asked for similar powers to the public protector, and Honorable Adebi, a member of the Joint Committee on Intelligence, he said, no, we can't have that. We can't give the Inspector General of Intelligence to override the Minister of Intelligence, when her people, for example, torture. Jy kan nie vir wolfskaapwagte maak nie. So the very person that the Inspector General of Intelligence, Mr. Faisal, has to look, they are his bosses. How can you monitor your boss? So that's another story. So those are some of the, you know, when you have a manifesto, you don't make too many promises because people will ask you, what of your promises in the last manifesto have you achieved? So one of the manifesto promises that we achieved was, we come from the Muslim community, but we are a platform for all communities. More than half of our councillors are Christians. Our leadership are Christians. So we have to do something for our own community. The nikah is not on the National Population Register. So that is a problem because then we become refugees if our information is not on the National Population Register. So Jama-ah has succeeded in getting the Minister of Home Affairs to make the nikah qualify to be registered on the National Population Register. So all you need is the imam to give you a nikah certificate, you pay your dowry, the man says, Qabiltu nikah li nafsi bidalik. You see, I still remember my nikah. I can get married anytime, but I can say the words. Otherwise, you've got to be coached how to say the words. So the process that myself and the minister worked out is so simple that once the imam in the mosque gives you the certificate, you go to Home Affairs, you get a valid South African marriage certificate. And on the certificate, the type of marriage is not gay marriage, it's not Queen Victoria's kind of marriage, it's a Muslim marriage, and the consequences are in terms of the Islamic Sharia. So that's an achievement that we made for the Muslim community. But we've done quite a lot in other communities, which my other leaders will talk about. So I want to conclude by saying that Jama-ah effect is going to be, like the Austrian Metternich said, that it will spread throughout the country. Other political parties with more resources will embrace the Jama-ah effect. I said that this might as well be a launch of the Patriotic front which we wanted when we were fighting in the trenches. So that is another hope for South Africa. Jama-ah has shown that over the last 17 years it has stayed the course. It has every PR Council of Jama-ah has a position because other political parties trust us. Just imagine Jeff Radebe calls me to Joburg and he says, I just want 2 minutes of your time. Why must I come from Cape Town to Joburg for a 2-minute message? He can give it to me over the phone. Jesse Duarte tells me, please come. I come to Joburg and Councillor Meyer Tapella was with me. He says, all I have to tell you is that the NEC of the ANC wants to tell you that you are a trusted party. You don't ask us for anything. We will never ask the ANC for anything. We've never asked them for anything. The only reason we, most of the time, vote for the ANC is because they have their roots in the foundational principles of the liberation movement, of Oliver Tambo and those before him. So whichever party governs South Africa with those kind of roots, Jama-ah will support them, even if it's the MK party, because they have their roots in the liberation struggle. Even if it is the EFF, because many of the cadres come from the liberation movement. But please, not homeland parties like the IFP and the UDM and those parties. When we were young students, and there was a colored representative council and an Indian council, we said one day when we govern, they will hang. When we were young. But afterwards, you become moderate, you say, no, forgive them. So we forgive them. So I can go on talking. I've got 5 minutes. But let me be generous and conclude, and thank you very much for coming.